Hello, it's Liz here with Stampin' on the Rock. One of the questions I get asked a lot is, where do you get your ideas from? Or they think they might want to be a demonstrator and do what I do, but their biggest concern is, I don't know where I would get ideas from. I just can't find ideas. So I've said this before, but I'm just going to share this again. I get ideas from multiple places. There are ideas all over, especially with the internet now. There's all over the place. But this is the annual catalog, Stampin' Up! Annual Catalog. And in the catalog, there are ideas all throughout here. You can copy exactly like you see it, or just get an idea. Even if you don't have those exact supplies, you can still use it just as a starting point. Okay, so this card right here, this is on page 115 of the current annual catalog. And this card right here is what I was like, I really like that. Let's go with that. It's not going to be exactly like it. The colors are not going to be exactly the same. But this is what I'm going to use to get started. Okay, so I'm going to show you my card. We're going to stamp along with me, or just watch along, and then we'll just compare the two at the end. Okay. So the stamp sets I'll be using, I'm going to be using Uniquely Artistic, and then Hydrangea Haven. I'm using the words from in here. Okay, and depending on when you're watching this video, both of these stamp sets are retiring this month, and they are both on sale at the moment. And this is April of 2023. Okay, but even if these stamp sets, if you're watching this later and these stamp sets aren't available, again, you can still use the same idea to create something else on your own with other stamps. Okay, so these are the two stamp sets that I'll be using. The ink colors I'll be using: Soft Succulent, Balmy Blue, and Orchid Oasis. My card pieces, I will be using Whisper White for my card base. This is a little bit different than how I normally do them, just because I usually take an 8.5 by 11 piece of cardstock and I cut it and I hold it horizontally and cut it down, so that my cards typically, let me show you. I'll show you this one. So the cards typically open like this way, so they're like fatter cards. This one, I held my paper vertically and cut down through the center 4 1/4. So it's this way. It's like a skinnier card, or you can do it this way. Okay, but it's the same size. The sizing is exactly the same. All right, so I have that as my base. I have a piece of pattern paper from Fancy Flora, and it is 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. This is Fancy Flora DSP. Looks like this. Okay, we'll set that over here. And then I have a piece of white cardstock that is 3 1/4 inches by 4 1/4 inches. I have a piece of Soft Succulent cardstock that is 3 1/2 by 4 1/4 inches. And then I do have just a little piece of white cardstock, but this piece is going to vary. This is just what I'm stamping my words on, so depending on what words you use, that size will change. Okay, so let me, we're going to go ahead and do this first. We'll take this piece and this. Before I attach this onto, I try to do as much stamping and adhering separate from the card base so that I can do everything here, and then when I'm finished, then I'll attach it onto the card base. That way, if there's any mistakes or things I need to trim or fix up, I can do that before I attach it to the final piece. Okay, so I'm just going to take this piece here and snap that up. And I'm going to line up with the left side. Sometimes when you measure and you're trimming, it might be off like a 1/16 of an inch, something. So I always I'll line this up on the left side. That way, if I need to do any trimming, it can all be done on the right side. Okay, so I know that this side is exactly even. This side, if you turn it over, if you can see there's a slight bit of Soft Succulent on the edge, I can trim that off. So I'm just lining that up over here for now, but we'll get back to that later. All right, let's take this piece here. I'm going to open up all my ink pads. Again, Soft Succulent, Balmy Blue, and Orchid Oasis. This stamp set is a distinctive stamp set. I've talked about this once before, but maybe this is the first video you're seeing. So the distinctive stamp sets have shading already in them. So when you stamp them, they won't come out solid. They're going to come out with darker parts and lighter parts. And then they're also two-step stamps because you can do this in a lighter color and this in a darker color over top of it to get some great depth to your stamping. So I'm going to take this more solid one here, and I'm stamping this one in the Orchid Oasis. But I'm using the same color twice. So I'm going to take the solid one, I'm stamping in the Orchid Oasis, and then I'm going to stamp off right there, and then stamp on my card. And that way it just comes out a little bit lighter. So ink again, stamp off, and stamp on my card. And I got something on here, a little fuzz or something. There we go. Okay. Stamp again. We're going to stamp off. And I'm going to stamp. Okay, so that's what I have at the moment. And then I'm going to take the more solid stamp because you can see through it now. That's a little trickier with this. Some of them are a little harder, but we're going to stamp and we're not going to stamp off. And now I can see through it, so I'm going to line this up with the stamp underneath because I can see where I stamped. Okay, there we go. Okay, and it's like a little bit off, not a big deal though. Just have fun with it. That goes up there. And there we go. And that's your distinctive stamp, and it's a two-step stamp because you're using two different stamps to get that look. All right, so I'll set that aside. I'm going to come in with the soft succulent and the leaf here. Okay. All right, and then let's do the Balmy Blue. Balmy Blue also has two different pieces. There's a lighter and a darker. So I'm going to take, sometimes people ask, like, what do you do with these little tiny things that are in here? They're just a great way to fill in instead of having all this white around here. It's a nice fill in and just, again, gives more interest to your card. So I'm inking this, but I'm going to stamp off and get it lighter. I want super light here. So I'm just stamping off. Okay, so at the moment you could just leave it like that. You can see where those are super light, all right? So I can see a little better. I'm going to pull these off of here. And let's do the darker one, and I'll show you in a minute what that looks like. And again, because the photopolymer stamps are clear, you can see through so you know where you're stamping. Does that mean it's perfect every time? Not so much. Okay, so there we go. All right. Okay, so you have a little shading in there. And you'll notice I didn't even get them exactly on each time. It's okay. Just have fun with what you're doing and take your time. Enjoy the process. All right, I'm going to take this now. Not in the camera, I'm so sorry. All right, and again, I'm taking this, I'm going to line it up on the left side to make it easier to just trim off the right side if I need to. Okay, now on the back side, there's just a little bit, I flipped it over on the back side, there's just a little extra on there so that I can just go down and just trim all at one time. Okay, so now I have it flat against the side. Okay. All right, now I'm going to add this more adhesive up top here. And this one, I don't even have any border around here. This Fancy Flora paper is going to cover the entire front of the card. So very carefully, just again, line up on the left side and the top. And press down, and la la, I love it. Okay, let's take my little white piece here, And this is where I'm stamping You Make Me Smile, which is from the other stamps at the Hydrangea Haven. And I'm using the Orchid Oasis. Straight down, straight back up. And dimensionals. Dimensionals are in here. All right. And we'll see. Let's compare the two. Take that. We're going to put that right in. When you're stamping this here in the middle, you can overlap them a whole lot because remember, we're going to take this piece and it's going to go right over. So you won't even see where you overlapped in that center part. Okay. Let me close these ink pads up a second. And let's see the differences and the similarities in these two cards. All right, so back to the sample. This was the sample. All right, so it has these 3 flowers in here. I used the same stamp set for the flowers and the dots. I did not use the same stamp set for the words. So here's the one I created. Okay, they're very similar, but the background paper is not the same. The words here are not the same. This one has, it looks like probably a Sahara sand piece that they stamped on. I just used white. So there are definite similarities and there are differences. So grab a catalog, look through there, find something you like, and then use that as your starting point. So hopefully that helps you out. And if you have any questions, I'm always here. Talk to you later. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.